welcome to another amazing Reboot Your Life series interview. And today I'm super excited to bring to you Christa Gowen. And she is going to tell us a little bit about what she does, but she is a TRE provider. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
So she's going to tell us what that means and a little bit about her journey. And today her and I are going to share her experience in order to bring you another fascinating way to reboot your life and to change your perspective and bring back your spark. So Christa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And so let's get to know you. Tell us a little bit
Great. Well,
about
thank you.
Christa.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I'm so excited to be here with you and your audience
Thank you.
to talk about me and my story and hopefully connect with some folks. So like you mentioned, I'm a certified TRE provider, and TRE stands for tension and trauma releasing exercises. And
Okay.
so I do that. And then I'm also a yoga instructor. And I put those two things together because that's what worked for me in my own journey of healing trauma. And like a lot of people that do this kind of work, I came to it from necessity, right? So I had so much experience with anxiety. I was having panic attacks almost every single day, starting when I was 12 years old, right? So anxiety and stress, all this stuff, and I are on a first name basis. And so I actually, it's funny when you talk about rebooting, I actually have two instances where I feel like my life has needed to get rebooted. And the first thing that happened was this awakening to love, as I call it, that I had. And then later it was discovering that I needed to go deeper into my healing to include my physical body. And that's where TRE came into my life and where I was able to start applying that practice and really make a difference to finally manage my anxiety and kick the panic attacks out of my life. So I found TRE 5 years ago. And since then I haven't had a single panic attack. And I can
That's
tell
a
you
big deal.
in those 5 years, yeah, this is a big endorsement, right? In those 5 years, I've had everything that you can imagine happen to someone that would potentially cause a panic attack to happen. And I still haven't had one. So this stuff is powerful and it really, really works. And so I share that with other folks.
Well, first of all, there's a million and one reasons why I think this is one of the most important conversations I've had about Reboot Your Life. Anxiety and panic is actually what brought me to my knees, which is actually the real essence of how my life reboot started as well. Just like, what is this? Why is it happening? How do I get rid of it? And it's like, never get it back. But I love so many of the hot words you said, because trauma, we look at panic attacks and we just want them. I know I can speak for myself. It's just like, I just want the symptoms to disappear. But it's so hard to peel back the layers and to really get down to the root of why this is happening. And I've tried so hard to make it a mindset game, like I'm in control, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I can do this. But that isn't always the magical pill. Our mind plays tricks on us, and that has worked at times, but it's definitely not the cure-all to everything. So can you give us a little bit of background, like what it looked like for you and at the point in which you decided like no more? Can you bring us up to speed on that?
Sure. So let me start in the beginning with my first reboot, if you will,
Yeah.
because this one really informed the work that I do now.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think how long this was. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago now. So I had been diagnosed with celiac disease, which for those of you that don't know, celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder. And so I had done all of the things that you do when you get that diagnosis. You changed my lifestyle to gluten out, right? Did all the stuff that I was told I needed to change, and I was still having symptoms and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was still having a lot of anxiety about it because if any of your listeners have ever dealt with autoimmune stuff, you know that the amount of anxiety of just being sick and constantly worried about the next time you'll be sick and what it's going to look like and where am I going to be and how's it going to impact my life, it starts to roll in your head, right? And so I was still having a lot of this go on, even though I shouldn't have, right? I had done the things that I was supposed to do to clear the symptoms up. And frankly, I was a little frustrated and overwhelmed.
Well,
And
I imagine.
yeah, it was driving me nuts. And so the way that my brain works is that I'm always trying to get at the root of a problem, right? I'm always thinking back and back and back to where things begin. And I was literally at the end of the day one night washing my face, and I was thinking about what the word autoimmune meant, right? So it's literally your body is attacking itself.
Right.
And I started thinking, like, why would my body do that? Why would that programming go haywire to all of a sudden see me as the enemy? Because that's essentially what's happening.
Right.
And I thought about that, and I'm like, autoimmune, like, why would I attack? Why would I be the enemy? And it hit me. And the only thing I can think to describe it as is like what you see in the movies when it's literally like a come to Jesus, drop to your knees moment. And I just started sobbing, like heaving sobs, because I realized with my face in the towel that I hated myself. And that internal subconscious programming was doing exactly its job. I was sending these signals to my body saying, I hate you. And so my body responded by then attacking myself.
If you hate me, then we must be bad and we have to destroy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was saying I am the enemy, and then my body was going, okay, our job is to attack the enemy. And then I attacked myself. And so I don't, was that the only thing that caused my celiac? Probably not. I have a genetic predisposition to it, sure. But do I think that it made it worse? Absolutely. Because I also know that once that changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And once I had that realization, that's when my symptoms improved. And that's when the GI's problems and the anxiety around what was going to happen next with getting sick finally subsided. And I realized, that opened up this whole thing of just realizing how much internal dialogue I had that I wasn't even aware of. And it allowed me to go on this path of starting to really have a self-awareness and be able to apply, different practices to sort of augment that reality for myself. And it saved my life, right? And so that carried me forward quite a ways. And then what happened is that I was still having panic attacks, right? So those had always been separate from my celiac symptoms, but they continued happening. And at this point, they had been going on for 20 years.
Now, were they triggered? Did you begin to notice any patterns? Because like with mine, they could be triggered, they could not be triggered. It's like the most random shit you've ever seen in your life. Well, how were yours? Were yours also like, did you notice it when you ate a certain food or did a certain thing, or was it random like mine?
No, it was completely random, and which almost made it worse because then I couldn't know when it was coming. Yes. It was like, so then it becomes this like thing where I'm always like waiting for this thing to happen, which then
it's like keeps the boogeyman.
Yeah, and then it keeps me in this activated state, which then just makes me that much more likely to have another one. And it's like it screws with your head.
Totally.
And so I did all this stuff, right? Sort of like with the gluten-free diet. I went to talk therapy. I had tried medication. I did the lifestyle stuff, and none of it was helping. And I got to this place where I even told my ex-husband, I said, I don't have anything left to talk about. I can keep going to therapy, but this isn't in my head. Like, I don't have anything to say about this.
I'm empty and it's still happening.
It's still happening. Yeah. And so it started again, right? My brain goes to like, okay, so what's the root of this? What's the root of this? And I went, well, Christa, if it's not in your head, it's still in your body. And that like hit me, and I'd never put it together like that before. And then of course, in hindsight, I'm going, well, of course it's in my body. A panic attack is all physical, right? It's a physical reaction of anxiety. It's a manifestation of that in your physical body.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills everywhere.
Right. So of course you need to treat the body. You can't just go to therapy. Now therapy is great. Therapy has also saved my life. I'm not knocking therapy.
No, I know.
But it's the right tool for the right job. And so when I realized that my body needed to be included in the healing, that was when I basically said, I sort of put it out there to the universe. I was like, all right, I'm ready. Like, show me the way. Where's my sign?
Next? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Terry literally like came across my path. And I went and I did it for the first time, and I had another like holy shit aha moment, and that was it. I mean, I never looked
explain
back.
to me, what is TRE?
Yeah, what is
What did
it?
you do? Like what walk us through what that means and how it came across your
Sure. So it's a
conscious.
set of physical exercises that we do to initiate a natural shaking mechanism in the body, right? So this shaking mechanism, or as we call it in the TRE world, tremoring, is an innate part of your nervous system's completion of a stress response. Okay, so you've actually probably experienced this before or seen it
Well,
in
I tremor
yourself.
when I have panic attacks.
Yeah. So you've probably experienced it or seen it in other mammals. And I say that because all mammal nervous systems are alike in this way, right? So if you have dogs and you've seen them shaking during a thunderstorm, that's this sort of mechanism that we're talking about. Okay. And so we
Okay.
do exercises to tap into that. And again, so like if you've ever shaken during a panic attack, or if you've been pulled over by the police and you're, shaking in the car, or you're public speaking and your hands start to shake, right? That's actually what your body's supposed to do to help burn off stress hormones that are coursing through your body. So you have stress hormones build
This is
up.
like the best conversation. I'm so excited.
I could talk about this all day long.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
it. So you become activated, right? This is what's supposed to happen. Your body senses danger. You become activated. Stress hormones start pulsing through your body. And then your system is designed to then act on those, to either fight or flight out of the situation. And when you fight or flight, you use those hormones up, right? When you're running away, that cortisol that just spiked gets used up. But what happens when you can't fight or flight? What happens when you're in a situation where you can't run away and you freeze, or it doesn't make sense to run away, right? If you're giving a speech, you're not going to run away from that, right? And
Totally.
so what happens is that your body, one of the ways that it discharges that extra hormone level is by shaking. Okay. And what we do is instead we stymie that, right? So we're taught and we're culturally conditioned that shaking is bad and shaking is weak and shaking is vulnerable. And we don't like that, right? We don't like seeing
Right.
other people be vulnerable and weak.
Right.
And we don't want to feel weak, because who wants to feel weak, right? So we
But
learn
it
at a
feels
very,
you're using it as it's like a feeling I can speak from personal. That is the feeling I get. Like it's the most unempowering feeling. Like I feel like I can't even control my own body. So you feel like weak.
you
You
feel
feel
betrayed by your
disempowered.
body.
Yes.
Right. You feel like your body is fighting against you when you need it to be your ally. And when we can actually, so I'm a big fan of talking about like nervous system literacy and teaching people about how their nervous system is supposed to respond. Because when we start to understand it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, we can start to cultivate a level of self-compassion for ourselves about the way that it's working. Right. So we can, instead of feeling betrayed, start to feel empowered to say, oh, this is what's happening and this is why, and I know what this means and I know how to deal with this now, right? So for me, one of the biggest aha moments I had when I was tremoring is I realized, this will blow your mind, I realized that every panic attack I have ever had in my entire life, and we're talking lots of them, right, was tremoring that I had suppressed. And my body got to the point of overwhelm and activation that it needed to release that stress. And I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't know what that looked like. And my thinking brain would interrupt the process of just allowing myself to shake. And what happens instead? It turns into panic, right? That's the heart racing. That's the clamming up. That's the feeling of terror. And instead, now I don't have to have panic attacks because I just tremor on a regular basis. I just get this stuff out of my system and then it never builds up, right? So we have this capacity to deal with stress. It's all different for everyone, right? And it's affected by genetics and it's affected by your resiliency. We can't control our genetics, but we can control the resiliency. And TRE is one of those things that helps to make that cup, that resiliency factor and holding potential, bigger, so
So
that it,
you induce your tremors.
yes.
I'm blown away.
And they're not scary, right? So that one big thing about this is that sometimes people shy away from the word tremor because we hear tremor and we think that that's bad, right? Yes. And it's not. So the whole, when you work with a certified provider, you're not just like shaking uncontrollably, right? So we call them self-regulated neurogenic tremors, right? So we are in charge of them. And that's part of what you learn through a TRE practice, is that you're learning to turn them on and turn them off because you have conscious control of them, right? So it's a subconscious process, the actual shaking itself, but we have conscious control of it so that we can use it as a therapeutic device. So it's not just, uncontrolled shaking that, happens at whenever, like a panic attack that could come out of left field. This is something that we work over time to self-regulate and control on purpose. So it's super empowering.
Okay. I have so many questions. This is going to be a long one. If those of you are watching, don't go anywhere because I've got lots to say. It's funny because I have done a tremendous amount of research on panic attacks, panic disorder, anxiety, because it's been prevalent in my life. I have also, my book and my program just happened to be released. I named the book long before quarantine, long before coronavirus. It was some sort of divine download that God knew that the world needed this. But, in conjunction with dealing with my own anxiety, now I see people who were not prone to it prior to this, and this has really activated anxiety and panic in people who are new to this experience. So I think the conversation is so important because, for some people like me who are veteran panickers, who you're speaking my language, first of all, I have not heard of this as a healing modality for that. So I'm so mind blown. But for people who are just listening going, well, this is new for me, or it's new for my kids because now it's affecting younger people who are more isolated and, they're not out playing with friends as much. So you've got these two groups of people, these people who have a lifetime of experience with it, these people who are brand new to it going, what in the world? And we tend to, it's our environment. I'm stressed and anxious because ... That has been my life. Like, I always name the reason why and then try to get through the symptoms as quickly as possible. And that is not unpacking panic and anxiety. I love the concept that you're introducing because the tremors are the worst part of it. The tremors make you feel like you need to call 911. And to take the worst part of it because you're not in full embracing of what the gift is of that tremor, like you're seeing it as just this like demon you're trying to get out. And when you really educate yourself, and like what you're saying is that tremor is what's going to make it better. It's like,
yes. Mm-hmm.
The thing that is the worst part of the experience is actually what can heal you.
Right. And it doesn't have to be the worst part, right? It's all about how we frame this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a huge advocate that awareness is so important, right? Understanding what's happening is such an important piece of this. So when you can, again, have this literacy about your own system and your own body and your own wiring, you don't have to feel threatened or scared by it anymore. Instead, you can feel empowered. You can feel like, okay, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm going to allow this innate wisdom that my body contains to be able to complete a stress response to occur. And I know what that is. And I'm going to respect and honor the beauty that is and allow it to happen in this controlled way, right? So we can allow, so two things, we can allow shaking to happen in the middle of a stressful moment. And then we can also use TRE as sort of like maintenance care, right? So I shake all the time, even when I don't feel bad, right? And it keeps me from feeling bad.
Right.
And then I also sometimes shake in, I had a confrontation with a coworker like a year ago, and he was just like, he was being super rude and aggressive, and he was getting in my space. And I actually had to say to him, like, you need to back up. You're getting too close to me. And I found myself starting to shake, right? I got activated. And so I knew what was happening. I understood what was going on. And before I had this practice, I would have thought that I was afraid. I would have thought that I was scared.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was scared of him. It was that I felt like fighting or running away. And I knew that I couldn't do that. I was at work, right? This is a coworker. I can't just, I can't fight this guy.
Right.
And instead, this is how the hormones get used up to keep you.
It's like burning calories at the gym.
Yes.
It's like burning, because I always said, like, I attributed my lifetime of anxiety to an abundance of empathetic and passionate energy. Like, I am an extremely vivacious, passionate, energetic, and empathetic person. And I always thought, like, okay, maybe this falls on me because a lot, most people around me were very unfamiliar with me and my little symptoms. And I always thought, like, it's just too much. I'm getting too much stimulus from the outside, and I can't physically handle it. Like, that was my explanation to myself. And so I would kind of retreat, like, oh, I need to settle down. I need to not get so wired up and so enthralled and so passionate. And we look for so many exterior, my journey of healing, like, I so resonate with you because my reboot officially started when I decided that I needed to love myself. When I made the conscious choice into the universe and said, you don't love yourself enough, and you need to fall madly and deeply in love with yourself. You need to be your soulmate. You need to be your best friend. You need to be your everything, and then everything will. And I wasn't there yet, but just even the declaration.
Yes, the awareness
that I needed more love for me began changing everything.
Amen,
and,
sister.
My panic attacks went away for like 3 years. They've recently returned to some degree, and I was like, oh, it's because I'm expanding my consciousness. It's because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm doing more uncomfortable things. And that is a part of it. But really, it's because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and doing new things that I'm not always carrying that self-love into it. I doubt, like, am I good enough for this? Are people going to want this? Are people going to need it? And as soon as I retreat into those thoughts that aren't like full embracing of my soul, then I feel it again. And there is such a connection, Christa. And I'm saying this because you women out there who are watching, and men, I guess, as well. I know I have some men viewers, but, I say it over and over. I say it on every show. It doesn't matter what we talk about. But some of you out there are so busy nurturing and loving and caring for others. And amen, that is so important. I honor you. I cherish you. And there's no judgment. But if you don't include yourself in your priority and in your love, this is all why we have these conversations. It all leads back to that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree completely. And to your point a minute ago about feeling like you were too much, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a really important topic and really, really important point, because I think as women, I think that we're told that so much.
I agree with you
so much, right? We're not allowed to take up space.
Yes.
We're not allowed to be our full, vibrant, passionate, energetic, out loud selves, right? That's not okay. And we're told, my ex-husband used to say to me, he said, you're too much.
It's something I've heard my whole life. Your hair's too big. Your voice is too loud.
Yeah.
You fill up the space in a room, and it's like you start to cower because you're like, oh, I'm not giving other people, I'm too much, like you said. Right.
And then you start to think that you are, and then it becomes this like cyclical, self-fulfilling thing, and it's crap.
It is crap. It is crap.
it just, yeah, that one.
Aren't we here to be too much? Like, what's the
Yes.
point of being here if we don't just fill in all the space that we're given?
Well, and as you can probably tell, I'm a pretty passionate,
I know, and I love you.
energetic person too. So I agree with you completely. Yeah.
But I think that it takes all kinds, but I think we are not, part of my mission on this earth is Reboot Your Life is the best title I could have ever had for my book. But when you really want to know what that means, it means back to basics. So what that means is we have overcomplicated life to the point that we don't remember our simple truths.
Yes.
And now it's just taking a whole lot of work to reverse engineer so that we know what this physical body can do for us. It's a miracle machine. So that we know what our energy really means. People say, oh, you're made of the same material of stars. And I've heard so many people be like, oh, that sounds great. But like, that's really amazing.
Yes.
And we have this untapped ability, but it's actually, we think it's so complicated, but it's simple. It's like, I need to love myself and speak kindly to myself and take care of myself and honor myself.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
all the things we're born with the ability to do that we forget how to do because we spend all of our lives trying to undo those things.
Well, and the other thing is that we spend so much of our lives in activated nervous system states where where the world feels dangerous. So rather than be able to do these things that are living out loud, these whole vibrant life things, we're busy attacking or waiting for an invisible attack that's never coming, because we're living from a place of fear instead of a place of love. I don't think the opposite of love is hate. I think the opposite of love is fear.
100%.
And I think that when we exist in this fear level, right, you can't love yourself. I don't think you can love yourself while you're also afraid of everything, because that includes you, right? And when you're afraid, you're not going to love something you're afraid of. You have to be able to move out of that. And to your point of, sort of honoring the magic and mystery and beautiful intelligence of ourselves, that's where the shaking to me makes so much sense, because it's something that, I teach people how to do it, but all I'm doing is facilitating them doing something they already know how to do. Like you said, it's stripping away all the excess. It's getting back to this fundamental ability that every single person has, that we learn to stop, that when we can relearn to allow, that's what moves you out of this place of constant fear.
And when you hashtag that, relearn to allow. That is a hashtag, hashtag, relearn to allow.
So when you can get out of that state, then you can live a life where you love yourself. And then, what the best part about loving yourself is, I think, is that then allows you to love other people. Mm-hmm. It allows you, when you can cultivate compassion and love for yourself, one of the components of that isn't that it stops at your water's edge. It's that then you can find that common humanity in the people around you. Look at how much of the world's trouble right now is come from people fighting against one another, and this sense of otherness, and this sense of there's always other people and somebody, I'm right and you're wrong, right? And there's so many things going on in the world right now that there's not a lot of love being practiced. And it doesn't matter what your religion or your politics or your views on whatever are. Those are fundamental basics of being a human being. And we've lost that connection to one another.
Because we've lost the connection to ourselves.
Yes. And because so
it starts here.
Right.
I became the best mom, and I'm not a perfect mom. There's a difference, but I became the best version of myself as a mom when I made the conscious decision to love myself and take time for myself and be a better version of me. I spent so long thinking like I didn't have time for me. I have two babies to raise. My husband's traveling. I have a house to blah, blah, blah. It's like, and I had all these stories in my head. I have no time to go to the gym. I have no time to nourish my body. I have no time, no energy, and other people need me and count on me and rely on me. The moment that I said, well, if you don't exist, no one gets the best of you. So fill up your tank. Everything changed. My husband's relationship with me changed. The love it's like he loved me more the moment I adored myself.
Yes.
I couldn't get him to do it any other way, but the moment I felt like I love myself, and if you love me, that's great, and if you don't, that's great, but I am so in love with me, he was enamored with me. He was like,
yes. You become magnetic.
love with you are, and then the world felt like that. My kids felt like that. It just took me so long, and I encourage, if you're watching, listen to what we're saying, like, from two people who have gone down the road of panic and anxiety. For both of us having different lives and living in different places, it all came back to self-love, and that's really something you need to allow to sink in. And if you're already there, fantastic. We're going to link everything that Christa does, all of the ways to reach her, all of the ways to get more information about the TRE, so that you can incorporate that. I know, for one, that's going to be the very first thing I do, is begin that journey, because it resonates so deeply. But I think that all journeys start with self-love. That is just the thread that has reared its face through every single Reboot Your Life interview that I have done, regardless of the topic.
Yes, I agree with you so much. And like, I told you at the beginning, that's where so much of my story started, is when I was able to just embrace that. I want to go back to what you said about being a mom, though, for a minute, because that you might not know this, but that ties in perfectly with the work that I've been doing lately. So I have a 19-month-old son, and part of my work before even becoming a mother was doing a lot of really conscious work. I knew I wanted a baby, and I knew that I couldn't do it the way that I was existing. And I really put a lot of effort and a lot of work into changing some of the stuff about myself and doing the personal development stuff beforehand, because I knew that I didn't want to pass the shit on to him, or, I didn't know what I was having, but onto the baby, right?
Yeah.
And so what you were saying about being the best mother that you could be was changing things for yourself. So I call you, and I call myself, I call those moms radical mothers. That to me is radical mothering. I actually just this month started a community online on Facebook for radical mothers. And we are the women, the moms who know that in order to give our kids a better life, because that's the universal wish of mothers everywhere, right? I think
that's the bottom. That's the holy grail,
right? Every mother can agree on that. We want our kids to have a better life. Here's the catch. You can't give your kids a better life until you give yourself a better life first. I'm going to say that one more time. You can't give your kids a better life until you give yourself a better life first. You can't give abundance from a place of scarcity. You can't give everything and expect that it's going to work, right? And so when you're one of those mothers who knows in her bones, in her every fiber, in your beating heart, that you've got to do that work on yourself first, that to me is an act of radical motherhood. And those are the women that I work with right now. Those are the women I empower to keep going, to get started on this work, to complete this work, to just, be inspired with the tools that they need to keep going, because it's hard, right? Mothering is hard enough, but when you're trying to do it while consciously changing and developing yourself, it's even harder. It's not an easy task. And it's also incredibly worth it.
And that's the thing. And listen, when I decided to go on my journey and find my spark and find my smile, and I said, I've had it. When I look in the mirror, that's where the book starts. My book starts with walking past a mirror and catching my reflection and it stopping me in my tracks, because I was like, who is that? She didn't look anything like, she was overweight. She was exhausted. She was old. She was sad. She had no dreams, no passions. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, oh, I know I need to change because I just caught a glimpse of what I am and it's not who I want to be. But then it's the daunting question of like, where on God's green earth do I start? It feels like I don't even know. And so I'm here to say that women like Christa, women like me, women like all of the interviews I've done, we are building communities of empowerment. We are here to hold your hand, to guide you, to say, hey, I was there yesterday, and follow me. And then we'll follow the people who are in the tomorrow phase of where we want to go. And there are women looking to support you. I did not dig myself out of my hole alone. To find self-love, to find my passion and my purpose, I had to tether myself to women who were further along and who pulled me with them. If you don't know, if your question is, I don't even know where to start, I don't even know how to peel back the layers and unravel, that is what this series is meant to provide for you. It's meant to provide you women and resources and connections that you can tether yourself to and say, I'm not strong enough yet on my own. I don't know what I want yet on my own, but I'm going to allow the inspiration from others, the encouragement from others to seep through. And I always say this, I say this on every show, but tap into the emotion you want, even if you don't feel it yet. You know, I always say, even in my moments of panic, like, how do I want to feel right now? Right now, what I want to feel is ease and flow. I want my heart to feel open, because when I get panic attacks, everything in my body constricts and I feel tight. I feel like I'm gonna, literally my bones are gonna break.
Yes.
And so I tell myself, what would feel really good right now? What would feel really good is just expansiveness and openness, my heart center to just burst open and love to pour in. And I just kind of, anchor with the emotions that I want to feel. And life, as you said, magnetically goes, oh, wait, you want to feel that? Okay, hold on, pivot, and it like points you in the direction of what it is that you're seeking. And the thing is, we look and we look and we seek. And I have another show with Patricia Ribera-Wolfson called Soul Seekers. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're seeking our soul on the outside. It means we're seeking the essence of who we are. It's all in here. But it's okay to need somebody out here to reflect back to you what it is that you haven't been able to see in yourself.
So that's so funny that you say that, because that's actually literally how your nervous system works. It's called co-regulation,
Okay,
right?
teach us.
So we are social creatures by nature. When we feel regulated and not activated, not in an activated nervous system state, but in a happy, it's called safe and social state. We literally, that's where the world feels safe, and we can have engaged heart-to-heart open conversations, right? Yeah. So if you've ever parented small children, or even big children, I guess, that if you're a hot mess, you're never going to calm them down, right? If you're ever in an argument with a loved one, a partner, a spouse, a best friend, and one of you starts going, the other one starts going, right? So you can co-regulate, so it works in both directions, right? You can also calm one another. You can both take deep breaths together, right? So our nervous system is designed to read the other person. That's what it's supposed to do, because I'm looking at you saying, are you dangerous? Are you safe? And I'm constantly scanning, right? And when I see that you're safe and you mirror safety to me, then I can go, oh, safety. And this is all subconscious, right? And then I feel safe, and then I feel grounded and regulated, right? And that's what keeps us that way. So to your point of, finding that person that's maybe at the next step, right? So I consider myself, when I work with clients, as I'm their expert companion. I'm not an expert on, lots of different things, but I am an expert at holding your hand and saying, I've been down in that hole and I know how to build a ladder. Let me show you how, right? I will do this with you, because that's what I see my role as in facilitating their journey forward. They're doing the work, but I'm helping them to show them how. And through that, through that relationship, we're able to do so much healing. And that relationship can be with yourself or with others, but healing happens in relationship. That's a really important point that I don't think gets talked about enough, but it's absolutely critical for it to work. And that's just basic nervous system biology.
And listen, first of all, amen, 1,000%. Everything you said, my body is like about to tremor because I'm like in complete resonance with you. I believe that our energetic fields are all attached. We're like in a grid together, 100%. The world is a population of 1+. Otherwise, just BS. We coexist because there is an energetic exchange that is necessary. It is absolutely part of our evolution. Each person evolves through the energetic exchange of interactions with other energetic beings. That could be plants and animals and nature and earth and water and humans. It's just a grid system, and every piece is connected. So it makes perfect sense that this interview is an example. Today is the first day I met you, and I completely energetically connect to you. I feel like this conversation is natural. I feel like I know you. I feel like we would be there for each other and support each other. We have been raised to believe that it's like, oh, I have my good friends and I have my family and I have strangers and I have acquaintances. But on a human level, minus all the labels we give each other, we could stand in front of a perfect stranger and exchange energy, and we can exchange emotions, and we can exchange love, and we can exchange fear with a complete stranger, because our energies don't know that the humans don't know each other.
Yes. I mean, that's like basic quantum physics, right?
Yes.
Is that we're all connected. I love all the woo stuff. Like, I could go as like woo as you want, but that's like, I can get into that like feminine, like energy, but I also love the just like science of it. Like, just
people call it woo, but it's not woo woo. It's like scientific woo woo.
Right. Like, that's the way the world actually works.
Yep.
And when we know that, when we remember that, we can tap into it and use it. And by using it, that's how we become magnetic. That's how we can say, these are the things I want in my life, and then allow them to happen, because we believe them on a subconscious level. And so they just flow to us, right? Because we are in align with that energy.
When I believed that I could write a book, I wrote a book.
Right.
It wasn't like suddenly I became smarter than I had been before. It wasn't like suddenly I became a writer and I hadn't been my whole life. Like, all the pieces, all the components of the me that made the book had always been there. It was just the activation of the belief that it was possible. The activation of the belief that your body can heal you. The activation of a belief that your energy can align you. All of these things, we have to really analyze our beliefs. I say this and I'll say it again. We're taught from our parents who meant well. We're taught from our religious institutions that mean well. We're taught from really good intentions. But we have to still question, does this work for me? Is it aligned with me? Is it moving me forward? Am I blocking my dreams or allowing my dreams? And if so, what's the cause of that? The tagline for the book was turn off your limitations and turn on your potential. Because once you unravel your limiting beliefs, your limitless potential is like literally, it's been sitting there like this, like just
we're waiting.
Hello. I have been here all along, but you have your belief system blocking you from thinking that anything was possible. I could literally have a 16-hour conversation right now about this. I would like to have a 16-hour conversation about this. if you're anything like me and you're watching this, you're going to want to know everything there is to know about Christa, and I'm going to make sure that you can find her on every platform she exists on. I'm going to make sure that you have access to her. I am going to make sure that I have access to her. I think that this is not information at the forefront of panic and anxiety. I think it needs to be, and I'm really in awe and an appreciation of the work that you're putting out there so that people can see other modalities and other avenues for help. You are making a huge difference in the world, and I appreciate you. I hope that all of you that are watching have found value in this conversation. I hope it has helped you in any way to reboot a part of your day, a part of your year, a part of your life. I send these shows out with so much love, and every single woman that I bring on the show, I connect with on a heart and soul level. And Christa, you are not, this is not going to be your last interview with Reboot Your Life. I'm going to have you back and back and back and back and back.
Great.
And I just thank you for your time and your energy and your wisdom.
Well, thank you. It's been so nice to chat with you. Like you said, I mean, we just resonated because that's how things work, right? When you can connect like this, it's not magic, but it feels that way. So
it does feel that way.
I'm super honored that you asked and that I got to connect with your audience.
Thank you.
As you can tell, I love talking about this because I want to be that person that was there, that I wanted, right? I needed a me in my life, and I couldn't find anyone like this and who's talking about this stuff. And so, once I got better, I said, this is it. Like, this is what I'm so passionate about, is making sure that no one else has to suffer the way that I did.
Yes.
Because it's so unnecessary. So that's what I do now. That's the work. It drives the work that I do for myself and the clients that I work with. So thank you for letting me be here and spread this word. I really appreciate it.
It has been our honor. And we will see you next time on the Reboot Your Life interview series. Everybody be well, and lots of love and light to every single person watching. Thank you.